One of the great ironies of the canals is that when most people get to come out and experience them firsthand for themselves, which is, of course, in the peak holiday season during the summer, the sheer amount of people who can be out on the canals fundamentally changes the experience of being there. For example, if you stood on this exact bridge during the peak summer hours, you could look at this very site that you're seeing on screen, and rather than it being empty, you would be seeing hundreds of people there. That's literally how busy it can get. Just like areas like this, some of the very popular spots for people taking photos of the aqueduct during the spring and summer, well, as you can see, not only am I out here in very much the non peak holiday time, but in weather conditions that don't really endear themselves to encourage people to come out wandering around on the canals for hours on end. They're beautiful of their own accord, of course, and as somebody who's been tremendously lucky to spend so many years living on boats, I've grown to absolutely love these sort of experiences, and of course, the very changeable seasons that Britain has. If you think that we have some very bad summers, just imagine what it's like being on a boat for what could be considered some very bad winters, we'll say that much. Anyway, I'm getting a little distracted, so my real point for this video was that over the years I've told a few people that I think it would be worth spending time on a holiday boat if they're considering living on a boat full time, because even just spending a week on a boat is going to give you a better idea of what it's like to live in that sort of an enclosed, cramped space with limited storage compared to a house, as opposed to if you're excited and go into a marina to view boats that you might buy and live on. Obviously, there's potentially a tendency that you've got rose tinted glasses because you want it to be a success and you want a boat and you want to love the boat that you're seeing and so on. But of course, if you go on a boat that you're looking to buy in a marina and spend 20 minutes on it, and let's say that you're a taller person than I am, and so you have to stoop a little bit so that you don't catch your head on the ceiling or on various fittings and fixtures, it might be something that you can overlook. However, if you spend even just a week on holiday on a boat, every time you hit your forehead on the same door fitting, you might start to think, is this really suitable? Do I want to be stooping down every time I'm indoors for the rest of my life? And I've got tall friends myself. I say tall friends. Let's just say I'm not particularly tall myself, so a lot more people are tall to me than they are to other people. And they've had exactly this issue where they would catch the top of their head on little joints and stuff in the panels on the ceiling and so on. And in fact, when I was selling one of my previous boats, I was talking to a couple of people on it at length about the fact that, well, they were quite tall, and so even though I wanted to sell them the boat, it's probably not going to be ideal for them if they're spending huge amounts of time on the boat rather than just using it as a little thing for a holiday every once in a while. So there is a huge amount of value and experience that you can get as a potential narrowboat dweller by spending time on hire boats when it comes to the interior and the experience of living in the boat and dealing with the space and all the rest of it. However, as I said at the start of this video, it's the actual canal experience that is fundamentally different in those really busy holiday times. And this is part of the reason I've suggested to people over the years that it might be worth hiring a boat well outside of the summer season, where even though you might get terrible weather for all of your holiday, it is that very fact of the terrible weather and being stuck on a boat in it that might give you a far more realistic and grounded look at what the day to day experience of life on the canals can be like if you're on a boat, whether you're in a rural place or in a marina. If you're stuck in a very small enclosed environment and the weather's sort of forbidding you from leaving because you know that you're going to go out, get absolutely soaked, and then drag all of your wet clothes and possibly your muddy boots back onto the boat and potentially then start steaming it up and all the rest of it. Of course, there's ways and means to deal with all these elements of life on a canal boat, but they're things you have to learn along the way. But the base level experience of being on a boat under a blue sky with nothing but the joy of summer surrounding you and dozens of other holiday boats passing you by and the community out all together mooring in the popular areas, that is a world apart from the experience of the vast majority of the year when you could be the only boat in sight. You might love that like I do. You might absolutely hate it and it might make you feel vulnerable, isolated, lonely, and so on. But these are the sort of things that you just cannot fathom and cannot really fully grasp when you only see the canals in the absolute summer best. And as I say, it's amazing who's out there in the canal community and the incredible people that you'll meet. But sometimes that canal community could be spread very, very thin along miles upon miles of canal. I just want to clarify that as I'm saying a lot of things that are positive in the summer season and then negative about boats in the off season, that's just to try and make people understand who might not have the off season experience that it's not all beauty and sun all day long. Whereas the reality for me is that I much prefer the quiet times and the desolate dark and the more moody weather rather than the peak busy summer hours. And that's because there's benefits such as the very desolate empty canals. So you'll turn up at locks and you might never see a boat there for the whole of the winter. You could turn up at those same locks in the middle of summer or somewhere like Chirk Tunnel, where I visited repeatedly through the peak summer season this year and saw on more than one occasion a queue of over 10 boats just on one side of Chirk Tunnel, all stacked up waiting for their turn to go through. So you can imagine just how long people are hanging around, holding their boat to the side of the canal. People start to get stressed. There's very often heated words exchanged, and people on the same boat start to fall out a little bit. It's a classic thing by the Newmarton locks. If you're more around there over the summer, you'll very often see people who've just been through the locks coming through not necessarily as good of friends as they were before they had to wait for maybe 2 hours plus to get through two little locks. Yet during the rest of the year outside of the holiday times, I've done dozens of boat trips through locks, through tunnels, where I haven't even seen another boat moving in my entire trip, never mind 10 of them stacked up at a tunnel entrance. It's worth remembering that if you're on a hire boat with a set time to get that boat back to where it needs to be, it can add an element of stress and rush that simply doesn't exist if you're living on a boat and able to moor up as and when and, well, already be home and in your own good time. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider checking out my Boat Life books for the Kindle and paperback. And please do check the links in the description for loads more of boat life and the great outdoors from me. Until the next time, keep it interesting, keep it boat worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.